Hello, and I'm so glad that you're joining us again here on Outreach Connection and right here from the WTJR studios in Quincy, Illinois. I have with me today from Liberia, Africa, Eric Wowoh. Is that correct? Did
Correct,
I say that
sir. You
right?
got it.
All
You
right,
got it.
all
You
right.
got it. You got it right.
And it is a pleasure to have you with us, have around the table here, because what a story you have of how God has worked in your life and used you on, for education in Liberia, building schools, from being a refugee yourself to the water projects that you do and you're continuing to do. And it's just an awesome story, Eric. As we said before, we wouldn't know each other if it wasn't for Jesus Christ.
That's right. That's right.
Now, I would like for you to start. Let's start at the beginning with you. We've got to get your story from the beginning.
All right.
Out there, and so let's begin here from a little bit about your life,
Okay.
up to where you're at right now.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for the privilege. It's
Yes,
great
sir.
to be here in your
Yes,
studio this morning. This is amazing. You know, how you could go from being a refugee for 14 years, running away from your country, and one day you find yourself in the studio talking about what God has been doing. I always told people that this is not my story. I'm just sharing a story that I did not write. I think it's a God
Right.
story. He wrote it.
Right.
And he took my life like a pen, and wrote the whole story out and handed over that story to me
Yes.
to go and share with people.
Yes.
Because I wouldn't have written the story about my life that will take me into a refugee camp for 14 years. Being separated from my parents and friends and country for over 20 years. I wouldn't have done that. So I say it's God's story, but I'm happy to share the
Yes,
story.
right.
Yeah,
Understand. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Now, you said something a while ago to me before the show, and I wrote it down here,
Okay.
about the disconnect, the summary of your mission, and about the disconnect from the head to the heart.
Right.
Because your people can be very happy without knowledge.
Right.
Okay,
Absolutely.
talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. My mission.
Because we want to get where there's so much we're going to get into with our next program too.
Yeah.
Okay.
My mission is Change Agent Network, the organization that I set up. The mission is to serve as a trusted bridge between the privileged and the needy, between our hearts and our minds, between those that are educated and those that are not educated. There's a need to build a bridge. And the reason for the bridge is not for one person to benefit, it's for both sides
Yes.
to benefit. So this is the deal. In Liberia, because I grew up in Africa and I spent all my life running around as a refugee, so I have seen the very worst that life has to offer. I have come in contact with death face to face.
Sure.
And God just saved me. And then I have gone through all of that, seen the very worst in the world. But then God, in the midst of that, brought me to the United States. The very best right now the whole world has to offer is America. And I'm here. So I have been down at the bottom and I've been to the top. So I started to think about what it is that is missing. There are people miserable in America, more miserable than we even have in Liberia. And there are people in Liberia that are miserable than other places. So what's going on here? How come the people that have so much given to them out of prosperity, money, wealth, everything, they have it, but yet they are unhappy, just as the people who have nothing? So what's going on? And in fact, sometimes people who have nothing are more happy than those that have everything.
Yes.
So what's going on here? So that led to me to this analogy that, okay, people that have so much stuff are most times very educated people.
Yes.
Because of their education, they are able to do businesses. They are able to transact businesses and make profits, and they can make good decisions because the mind has been developed through education. But then they lack something else. As they get educated, then wisdom, that's head knowledge, the wisdom
Yes.
is absent,
Right.
and the heart is disconnected from the mind because everything had to make sense. We want to rationalize everything.
Yes.
It got to make sense. I got to get my brain wrapped around this thing. If I can get my brain wrapped around it, I can't do it.
Yes.
That is an issue of faith. And you don't have faith with your mind, you have faith with your heart, not with your mind. You don't love people with your mind, you love people with your heart. Okay? You can't make a difference with your mind, you make a difference with your heart. So I begin to look at that. And coming to America, what I see, people with a car, a home, they have a job, they have their Social Security, they have everything. 911 number works. Walmart is down the street. Apple Center is on the other side. You know, and they have this. Look at the roads, beautiful, world-class roads, and they have all this, but yet they're not happy. So there's something wrong. And then I go to Liberia. On the other hand, I see people that don't have food, they don't have education, don't have anything, but yet they have a smile on their faces. Then I begin to wonder what's going on here. So I realized that the people in these third world nations have a heart, but don't have a mind, and that's why they are poor. And the people this way have a mind, but don't have a heart. That's why they got all the resources that you have. And it's difficult for them to change the world because their heart is not connected to the issues that's going on. So you got to build a bridge.
Because we're almost out of time. Because we're going to continue with part two here in our next program. We're going to have pictures for you to show where. But did you hear what he was talking about on that bridging the mind to the heart? You know, here in America, we take so often education for granted. We take so often just like a water for granted. But I'm talking about Eric here, who has come from a place where he had nothing to eat. He was in a refugee camp. If you was with us last week, perhaps you heard part of that story as he was sharing with us. Here in America, we're so blessed by God and the land of plenty, if you will, that sometimes we have, as he said, I loved what he said about being disconnected from our heart, from our head, instead of them being together and working together. Eric, welcome again.
Thank
Eric,
you.
Wowoh.
Whoa.
Thank you so much for being with us again. Fantastic. For those who watched last week, and I know even if they didn't watch last week, they're really going to be blessed by the story that you have. So we ended with the computer story.
Right.
How you was given a computer. And you began, well, what can I do with this? It wasn't just like, oh, look what I got. You were ready to share.
Right.
Now, we're ready for you to share the rest of your story and your ministry.
So, like I was saying, that one computer is amazing how God took that one computer today, using it as a tool to multiply into all of this today. You know, we were able to train about 700 refugees from all over West Africa and Eastern Africa, from Somalia, from Sudan, Ethiopia, Ivory Coast. We were all refugees in that one camp, and that was the only thing that came out of that camp, the only project. That
it was
still,
a bonding for you too.
Oh yeah. And there I met some of the most wonderful leaders in my life that I still continue to work with today in Liberia. Young people that came to the computer school, and we got connected. Our hearts and our minds got connected together, and we decided we're going back to Liberia to bring the change that we've discovered in the refugee camp, to bring the love that we discovered back to Liberia and have rebuilt. So that was how the project went from the refugee camp to Liberia. You know, after the war ended in Liberia. The Civil War ended about 9 years ago. So we went back to Liberia. And in Liberia, we have about 14 schools right now from that one computer.
That one computer.
Still multiplying.
I got to ask you this. Do you still have that one computer? Do you have that?
That particular computer, I don't have.
You don't have, okay.
Yeah, but we left it in the refugee camp. You know, when I came to the U.S., it was left out. I don't know what happened to it.
Right.
But then in Liberia, the amazing thing about the story, and I wish people could just pay attention to this, is that the man who gave that one computer had no clue what he was doing. For him, it was like a computer he had no use for.
Yeah.
It was like, well, it's just a computer. What is it going to do?
Yeah.
But today, see what's happening. I'm sitting right here with you. And now we're talking on TV, you know, talking to millions of people that I may not even get to be able to see.
Yes.
One computer that God took and do all of this stuff. So that computer,
awesome.
So we went to Liberia. Today, fast forward the story, we built 14 schools across the nation of Liberia. the war has ended, but a whole generation was denied the opportunity to go to school during the course of the war. A whole generation.
Something to think about.
The whole generation. This is not a handful of people. I mean the whole generation.
Right.
Fought war, never experienced peace, never had joy, don't have any education, cannot have a job. And then the war has ended. And the question is, what's going to happen to that generation and to the next generation coming right after them? So I thought that, God always bless people for a reason. A generational blessing. It's not just for you. It's not for your generation. It's for you to extend that to the next generation. So even though I never had much of an education, normal education, I never had much of anything, what can I do with the little that I have? It is not how much you have, it is what you do with it that makes the difference.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's not how much. Awesome. It's not like, I don't have $1 million. Yeah. You don't need $1 million to change the world.
Right.
You don't need anything to make a difference. All you need is just start with what you have right now from wherever you are. And
what
for me,
an example.
Yeah, for me, it was in the refugee camp. So we started with that. And then by 2004, when President George W. Bush was president here in the U.S., and there was this war on terror started around the world. And Liberia was still going through that civil war thing. And it was a breeding ground for terrorism and all of that, go on. And if you ever watched a movie called Blood Diamond, that's what it's about.
Okay, I haven't.
It's about that situation in Liberia.
Okay.
So Bush, they sent some peacekeepers to Liberia, and then the war came to an end, around that time. But then the question was, what's going to happen to all of these refugees? Almost 1 million people have left the country. How are we going to bring them back home? How are we going to repatriate them? So the U.S. government showed up in the refugee camp that I was in 2004.
Okay.
And they came in and said, we are here to assess the needs of the refugees and want to help some of you move on with your life back to Liberia. Those of you who love to go to Liberia to help rebuild your country, and want to help some of you become locally integrated into this country, and some of you will move on to developed nations of the world. But to go to the developed nations of the world, you must write your story. We want to know what happened to you, not what happened to the whole country. We know what happened, but what happened to you? And then, guess what? 3 criteria to determine whether you get to come to America or not. First was long stay refugees. And these refugees are people considered to have spent more than 10 years in the refugee camp without being able to go forward or backwards.
Okay.
Stuck in the camp for 10 years. That was the first requirement. And I was going to my 14 years when they show up, so I was kind of overqualified for that requirement.
Yes.
And then number 2, you must have been tortured, beaten, and abused, and you have scars, you can prove it. And I have all these scars on my back.
All that.
I passed that. So automatically my case was picked, and I was told that we were coming to the U.S. in August of 2006. I had no clue what they were talking about. Had no idea what that's going to look like. And we were skeptical. We were unsure of what's going to happen because of the news we heard about America. There's a civil war going on in Iraq. There's this one happening, the slave trade and all of that. What's going on here? But then, long story short, we got on the plane. There was no passport, no ID, no phone number, no email, no Twitter account, no Facebook, no LinkedIn or YouTube, nobody, not knowing anything. And we were told we were coming to America to Lafayette, Louisiana. In fact, they did not tell me Lafayette. They wrote on the form, L.A. And I thought that was Los Angeles. I never thought of Lafayette, Louisiana, but it was a wonderful place. And then we got on the plane. That was my first time. Didn't know what to think. And when you talk about faith, which is something in America is hard to discuss with people.
Okay.
That is absolute faith.
I
didn't have the details. I didn't have the understanding of what's going on. I didn't know any of these people. You follow in total stranger. You only have to trust God that He's leading you in the right direction. And we got on that plane, arrived in Frankfurt, Germany, spent an hour where I met a strange lady at the airport. I didn't know her in my life, and she walked up to me because we were giving a bag a little bag, of this big, and on the bag they wrote IOM, meaning International Organization for Migration. And they told me, you cannot open that bag. You can't squeeze it. You can't hide it. You got to keep it in the open for everybody else to see. If you open that bag, you're not going to see it in America. You're going to be brought back here. So that's the bag I had in Germany, and it was freezing cold. That was in August. Now, you killed a Liberian coming out of a heat.
I can imagine.
Just to get off that plane into the bus to get to the main terminal in Frankfurt, Germany, I knew we were not in Africa anymore. Yeah. And we were headed somewhere I had no clue. So a strange woman walked up to me in the airport and she said, "Welcome to Germany." And I said, "How do you know my name?" She said, "Well, your bag identifies who you are. I'm your caseworker. I'm one of the ladies that work here with refugees. I'm going to put you on your next flight to the U.S. This is not the U.S. This is not where you're going." And we arrived at Chicago airport.
Okay.
That was the entry, airport into the U.S.
Yes.
And then the U.S. immigration told me that you are here not as a student, not as a worker, not on tourism. You are here because the American people and the American government decided to give you this opportunity because your story is compelling. And we decided to bring you here to give you a second chance to recover everything you may have lost.
God bless America.
Yeah. And your home country is going to be Louisiana. And what happened was the Catholic Diocese of Louisiana in that area, Lafayette, that partnered with the U.S. government to bring me over to that part of the country. Yeah. So I arrived in there, and just from the airport, just driving the car with the AC on, in 24 hours, the world have literally changed, like kind of literally flipped over.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what's going on. And as we drove in the car with my caseworker, and I asked her, "Where is everybody? I can't see anyone in the street. It's so quiet. Everybody driving the car. Where's everybody?" And she said, "They all drive a car here." And she said to me, "You're not going to be able to survive here if you don't have a car." And I said, "Then I better get back to Africa because I'm not going to be able to afford to drive a car." And she said, "Well, Eric, you just come in, just cool down. You just got in. Give it some time." And then I said, "How do you get around when all of you drive a car? Who do you ask for directions? How do you know where you're going?" Because in Africa, we ask questions. We ask our neighbors where you want to go.
Yes.
How do you do that? She said, "Well, there's something we have called GPS." And that threw me out. What is GPS? She said, "It's a little computer that helps us read it, all of you. That's what you do. You don't talk to it." And we got to my apartment, first apartment in my life. Took me into the room. Never seen a room like that before. It was one bedroom with a mattress and about 4 pillowcases. Wow. And she said, "This is your bedroom." I've never owned a bedroom before, never owned a bed before. There was carpet on the floor. The lights were so bright, I couldn't see well. Yeah. And I'm standing there. It's just been 24 hours. I don't know what's going on. Yes. And we came outside, and she said, "I want to show you your food." And she opened the refrigerator. It was food from the bottom to the very, from the bottom to the very top. And she said, "This is your food. Every weekend, I'm going to come and replenish the food." And I look at the food. There was beef, chicken, cheese, everything in it. I've never seen so much food like that in my whole life. And then she said, "I got to show you the temperature control." Temperature control, what is that? "You guys control the temperature here?" And she said, "Yes." It was so much to take in. And I said, "Go home." Yeah. A week later, I decided to fast and pray. 2 weeks. And I said, "Lord, you need to tell me exactly what am I doing here. This is overwhelming. What do I do with all of this?" So the idea of shipping to Liberia started. So I started shipping computers, textbooks, gathering them from my neighbors.
I was going to say, where did you get the computers? Where did you get the textbooks?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from neighbors. I first started talking to my neighbors, next door neighbors, and they would bring books, computers, clothing, and shoes, and I gathered them in my apartment. And later on, the Lord provided a warehouse for me and loaded the warehouse. By 2008, I was able to ship our first 40-foot container of over 30,000 books.
But I got to stop you a minute.
Yeah.
I got to stop you. I got to ask this question.
Yeah.
Did it just happen like that, or was there a little bit of, who's this guy?
Oh, yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot today. As a matter of fact, the Catholic Church that helped us to settle in that town, when I came in, I couldn't process what was going on. Yeah. And they thought that I was traumatized. Yeah. I remember going to talk to my caseworker, and I said, "I want to start shipping food and things to the refugee camp there's so much food, so much of it. I mean, I started watching TV and I realized that the Americans feed the birds every year. I saw that on TV. And then another time I watched the TV and they were talking about animal obesity on CNN. And then I saw that and they said they needed $46 billion to fight animal obesity. I'm watching all these things and I'm sitting there thinking, my gosh, I could start shipping some food.
Yeah.
So I went to this guy and I talked to him and he said, no, we can't do that. That's not going to work. I mean, if you came here, you were brought to this part of the country to settle down here, and it's going to take 5 years before you can think about sending money back home or doing anything back home. You need to get a work history, get a credit history, you need to get a good job, build up yourself a family and live the American dream. But then the question was the American dream and God's dream and the dream of where that comes from, which one comes first? The American dream is not a dream that's for everybody. It's for those who live in America.
Yes.
I'm not from America. I'm from, this is where I'm from. And what I need over there is the baseline.
Yes.
It's not the excess. It's the baseline water, baseline food, baseline shelter, baseline education. That's all we need. I can't spend 5 years waiting for the American dream.
Right.
I need to get back home. And I want you to give me your yesterday's trash so that I can take it as a hope for tomorrow in Liberia. And that means your old clothing, your old shoes, your computers, your McDonald's change. Not the most important things in your life, but the less important things. And they couldn't understand that. So people thought I was crazy and they left me alone for a while. And by the grace of God, one thing I noticed that if God started business, he will finish it.
Amen.
And he started it and he provided every step along the way. Today, we have shipped over 7 containers of things, educational materials.
Yes. Wow.
We have books all over the country in the schools that we built, and we have built 14 schools.
Wow.
Educating over 3,000 kids right now as we speak, free of charge. And we have over 200 staff, and we have Americans traveling from around the country, coming on mission trips,
Listen to that.
They find a way to help, And all I can say is that God's been a good God.
Amen. Now, we need to jump ahead here because we're running
out of time again.
already, brother, because I want America to know and those in our audience to know, for example, like the water. We got a video here of some water, that we take it for granted.
Yeah.
We just, it's just
just there.
For granted.
Yeah. It's just there.
And Donette's going to bring up a video here, and we're going to talk about the drilling the wells.
Yeah.
And getting the water out, and I know when I watched it, I was absolutely, it just thrilled me when I saw the excitement of everybody.
The celebration of water.
The celebration of water. And you know what? I liked what you said also when that video comes up. I liked what you said also was that water was a miracle. We think of miracles as healings.
Yeah, raising the dead.
Right. And here's some picture. Here it is right here. And I tell you, it's maybe you can talk about it.
Yeah, that video you're looking at right now, that was shot about 2 years ago in a community called Johnsonville in Liberia, where we have 2,500 kids in school.
Now, that's you in the white shirt.
Yeah, in the white shirt right there. And with some other guys from America. And these people have never seen a running water before. It took us 2 months.
Look at that.
That's a celebration of water.
It's
a celebration. Here in America, you just got to go into the bathroom or the restroom and open the tap. That's it.
Yeah.
But over there, this is a miracle. The whole community has been thirsty forever. Never seen water.
Wow.
The kids come to school, we don't have water to give them to drink. We cannot even take our bath. We cannot have enough water to cook. And for the first time, we partner together to bring water to a thirsty community of over 20,000 people. 1,500 kids in the school. And this is that guy's taking a shower. He never taken a shower for days. That's about time, right? To take a shower. Celebration of water, something that we would consider as simple as water.
Celebration of water.
Water is life. This guy right here, he's one to drink all of the water overnight. Just drink it,
Yeah.
We never seen this water coming out of the faucet.
Well, where did you get water before, though? Before all this, how did you drink?
There was a creek. You got to walk like 2-3 miles down the road to get water. And you see that lady praising God, everybody thanking God for this water. For us, this is a miracle.
Yes.
This is like raising the dead. It's
Amen.
like opening the eyes of the blind.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
this is a miracle. And that's me right there. And look at what we have now. Today, the watering the thirsty.
Amen.
Water is life.
Water
And
is
the
life.
water has no enemy. Everybody
I
got
like that.
Everybody got to drink water to survive. So you
Right.
cannot make water your enemy. It's impossible. You're not
Yeah.
going to survive.
Yeah.
And that's what we did not have. So we are not just building schools. We are also building communities.
Community. Yeah.
And that's what we need to build. I'm not asking people to join me to build school. No, there are enough schools. What we need is community. The community is broken. There's no more community. Now it has come down to the individual success, individual strength, about my happiness, what I want for me, how I want it, where I want it, you know, and where it's going to come from. And we forget about the community. And you cannot do much without a community. So the vision that God gave me is to build a community, not a school, not a church, not just a hospital, but a community where you have everybody coming in. You know, and this is why in Africa, where there's not a lot of resources, people come together to get married. They come together to bury somebody. They come together to mourn, to get, you know, the death of somebody. Here in the States, it's the flip side. You don't need everybody to do anything you want to do. You can do it by yourself. You have your lawnmower. I have my lawnmower. I don't need to borrow yours. I can use mine. But we don't have a community.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Right.
So it's that community we're trying to build. So we build a school. We build a church. We build a water system. We bring electricity. Holistic approach. And everybody have a part to play in that community. In that way, you don't have to worry about who's doing what. Everybody do their own thing in the community. And we live in peace, and God gets the glory.
And I liked what you said before. It's the next generation. Here's some pictures of the school here, I think.
Yeah, this is the
And
picture
it's for
of
the next generation.
The
Go
next
ahead.
generation. Okay, my generation was terrible. I never had a chance to go to school. I ran throughout my life. I lost my parents for almost 20 years, no connections. Coming to America as a refugee. That's my generation. It's broken. Very little hope was given to that generation. And the generation before my generation, too, went to the same old thing. It's been a cycle. And the reason why that happened is because we became so self-focused that we took certain actions without considering the next generation coming right after us. It was about what can we do for ourselves? What can we do now? Not tomorrow, today. So I said, in order to do that, you got to focus more now on the next generation. We got to forget about ourselves a little bit. We got to focus on the next one, because when all this stuff that we are working for, what is the purpose? What Jesus said, you can come to heaven, nothing else going to make it into heaven, but you can bring other people with you. And that is people. That's all it comes down to. You can't bring the cars, you can't bring the homes, you can't bring your bank account, your 401k savings. You can bring nothing. All you can bring with you are the people.
Are the people.
And the generation is important. So education is the key. And the gospel with education, I call it Christian education, is the key. So the next generation are the ones that are going to truly change our world, both in Africa and here in the U.S. But then the problem is that the older folks are retiring too early. Get out of the system, withdraw from society, and say, well, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. And then the younger people say, well, if they can't do it, we can't do it either. It's too scary. We can't make it. So that's why I step up and say, the generation is the key. In the 40s and 50s and 60s in America, the generation stood up. And they sacrificed everything. Sacrifice everything in order for this generation to have what they want. And unfortunately, this generation now have changed the culture to this is about me. This is not about the next one. It's about me right now. And that is a problem all over the world.
Wow. Eric, do you know how much wisdom you've got? Do you know how much wisdom you have just told us Americans about? You know, that you hit the nail right on the head. That's what I'm trying to say. You've hit the nail right on the head for America. You know, it's about the next generation. It's not just about me. And it started with one computer.
One computer.
For you.
It's still growing.
And still growing, Amen. And amen. And amen.
That's one of the schools right there. That's one of the schools. And we try to build it beautifully. But the mission in Liberia, just to give you a heads up, we are The goal is to build a school in every county in Liberia, build a community in every county. And there are 15 counties.
Yeah.
We are in 7 right now. We have 8 more to go. And we are building a college right now in Liberia to educate people, provide higher education. And we are into agriculture. People got to learn how to feed themselves. God gave you a land.
Amen.
Why are you running away from that land? Why are you not appreciative of the land? In the land, it's everything you want. There's gold, there's diamond, there's oil. You know, you can plant your crops and grow in that land. So the problem has been solved, but we are not thinking the right way. We think it's about us.
Yeah.
So we started getting involved with agriculture, and people who are listening that want interested in feeding people, that's what we do. That's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Give them some seed to plant.
Yes. Yeah.
The kids go to school, but they can feed themselves.
Right.
The guy who feeds you controls your life.